It is Tuesday, March 26th, 2024. This is another edition of Football Today. You know, those two dudes from the Talking Giants world, Bobby Skinner and Justin Penik. I am Chris Rose, producer Mikey helping us out as well. First of all, we got a new look, boys, huh? What do you think of our new home here?
I think it's very much improved. I'm excited to be new look show.
Clean look.
Bobby, since you live in Florida, is this stucco that we have on the side here, or how did we put all this together?
Oh no, those are foam panels for audio.
No, not those. I'm talking about our new look here, pal. Can't you work with me a little bit?
Oh well, I thought you were looking at like this little corner right there.
No, I'm not.
Got like a Miami Vice feel.
No, this is concrete.
Okay,
this is a brick house.
Yeah. Just a quick reminder, in the off season, we are going to try and release new episodes every Tuesday and Friday morning, I believe at 10 a.m. Eastern. Is that right, Justin?
On the tubes, and then the podcast for podcast people, everything will be available for you for your commutes on Tuesday morning and Friday morning. Just want to try and get a little bit more consistent so you know when we're going to be popping up in your feeds.
Yes. And by the way, if there is breaking news or something like that, we will put out an episode, help you out and give you our thoughts. So there you go. There you go. Since we last spoke, there has been some interesting movement out there. And so let's get it going with the defending Super Bowl champs who are now down a corner. They have traded L'Jarius Sneed, or at least are about to shortly, to the Tennessee Titans for a third rounder in 2025 and a swap of seventh rounders this season. Bobby, when you heard the move, were you thinking, what the hell are they doing?
So when it's the Kansas City Chiefs and the Super Bowl team, you're like, okay, sometimes you got to let guys go, right? But the more you look into it, like, to me, the less it makes sense. One, first of all, you trade him for only a third rounder, right? Like the Titans viewed that person as a premium player, going to play him at a premium rate, and he just turned 27 and you only got a third rounder out of it. That, to me, I don't understand. Also, the Chiefs have the 10th most cap space right now in the NFL, so they could have afforded to keep Sneed. They're set to have $64 million next year. They have to re-sign Nick Bolton, Creed Humphrey, and Trey Smith from that awesome 2021 draft class. But they could also have an extra $17 million if Kelsey retires. And that's where I'm gonna finish off. Is the Super Bowl window will always be open for the Chiefs as long as they have Patrick Mahomes. But I feel like it's a little extra open when Travis Kelsey is there, and that's winding down. And I would really be trying to take advantage of everything while Travis Kelsey is still on this roster because he really is. It's so vital for them.
They obviously can restructure, but Mahomes' cap hit kicks up to 25% of the cap next year with $66 million, and the cap's going to continue to grow. Blah blah blah. How much does a cap actually matter? I think here, if you were to just say either, all right, you pay Sneed on the franchise tag, you play him this year, and then he hits the open market, and the plan is, all right, well then you could just get a comp pick back. I think this is basically guaranteeing, all right, Sneed may not play up to that elite level where you get that comp pick, right? It's kind of a gamble, and the Chiefs would therefore not need to spend on their own end to, fully get that comp pick back. So I think this is kind of saying this is the comp pick without getting a comp pick back for L'Jarius Sneed here. Where I'm with you, Bobby, where I feel like Sneed's this corner that he followed the best wide receivers in the NFL last year. Even the NFC. You look at the teams that they played, and it was Sneed that was just following them. And McDuffie gets a lot of credit, but McDuffie was mainly their slot corner last year, and it was Sneed that was following those wide receiver ones. This makes sense to me because especially for a team that I feel like you can utilize these assets elsewhere. They signed a guy like Mike Edwards, who was a cornerback that made some nice plays for them down the stretch. He was on the Bucs Super Bowl champion teams too. They drafted some other guys like Joshua Williams, who was a corner that they drafted too. I feel like Steve Spagnuolo, between the draft and between some of the guys that they have now, is it going to be the same as L'Jarius Sneed? No, but you're removing $19.8 million from your cap space and from your roster. And for roster construction, I think this isn't the worst thing for the Kansas City Chiefs. And you still have a really good corner on the roster with McDuffie.
But McDuffie plays in the slot, and Sneed, you're facing wide receiver ones throughout the playoffs. Like you're gonna,
You don't think they're going to move McDuffie? Because McDuffie did play a lot on the outside his rookie year too. So this is year 3.
I don't know, but Sneed was their guy, and again, the contract is $55 million guarantee, so you would be getting all of his 20s, right? And they have the cap space to not back, like it wouldn't be a contract that had to backload. They could put the cap on this year, for like essentially almost even. Next year they have a good amount of cap space with Mahomes' cap hit already, with only 3 guys essentially that you have to resign, and maybe they let Trey Smith walk, and they only keep one of Creed Humphrey and look to draft there. Like to get through the playoffs, you're gonna have to face a bunch of wide receiver ones: Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, and they just got rid of their cornerback one, who's been following guys and shutting them down.
Not only following them, beating them up. I remember that clip against Tyreek Hill that I believe Peacock showed during the playoff game, where he was just manhandling Tyreek Hill, and not a lot of people can do that. So we can agree that those 2, depending on wherever you want to put McDuffie, outside slot, whatever, that's like the best corner combo in the NFL, right? I mean, I think we can. It's pretty safe to say it's got to be, right?
Maybe the Jets. Maybe you can make an argument for the Jets, but yeah,
maybe. But 2 guys in their 20s who are awesome. So what they've done now is they secured an earlier 3rd-round pick. Like, let's just say that he played this year on the franchise tag for whatever reason, and then he walked. Well, then they get a comp pick in 2026. Instead, they're going to get a 3rd-round pick in 2025. It just doesn't seem to make sense, in particular because, yeah, we could say that the window is open based on what Patrick Mahomes can do. Patrick Mahomes in that offense did not score a single point in the AFC Championship game in the second half. Not one.
Number 2 defense in the NFL.
Yeah. So why did they win? They won consistently because they were able to come up with big stops. And I know that Chris Jones was a huge part of that in overtime in the Super Bowl. But man, I mean, you're talking. L'Jarius Sneed had the biggest play of the entire playoff run for the Chiefs when he punched the ball out of Zay Flowers at the goal line. I'm not so sure that the Ravens don't win that game if they score that touchdown there.
Yeah, and again, they're not like a team. They're not the Saints where they're just like strapped for cash and like you just have to let guys walk. Like they're just like it's because that Patrick Mahomes contract was like it was signed in 2020. It's like it looks like it's like a bargain compared to the other quarterbacks. I know, they've kept on pushing the cap hits, but they're like financially they're all right for the future. And again, like what if Travis Kelce retires after this year, which I don't think any of us would be surprised by? They get another $17 million in cap space. So then they'd be at $81 million of cap space next year, and that's without any other, contract reworkings or guys being cut. So I just think they are financially like in a healthy place that they should be looking to take advantage of this Mahomes Kelce window and keep that defense intact.
I think they also trust their ability to evaluate and add talent around,
That's
which
fair.
I think they showed that with drafting Sneed and adding Sneed in the first place, obviously with McDuffie, as quarterbacks and wide receivers and tackles and these premium positions are going to go off the board first in the draft. Corner always seems to be one of those positions that when it starts to be taken in the draft, there's a spam button that you see corners just start to fly off the board. I will say this about Sneed. I mean, Dalton Feely and I, we did all JM, we put together all JM, basically all NFL teams all throughout the year. And, the reason why I'm talking about Sneed following these wide receiver ones, and you just look at the list of the receivers that he faced, it's insane. I mean, he starts off the year with Amon-Ra, Calvin Ridley week 2, DJ Moore week 3, the Jets week 4, Minnesota Vikings week 5. Literally every week has insane wide receivers that he faced, and he shut them all down. But before 2023, 2022, he had a completion percentage allowed of 7.5, 75% in 2021. 2020, it takes time for players to kind of break out and develop, but 2023 has been more or less an outlier of Sneed really locking these guys down and being the elite corner. And the Chiefs, you're paying for this guy to be elite. I'm saying I'm for this for the allocation of resources.
One of these 4 guys will be lined up opposite Trent McDuffie next year. Xavier Howard, I don't think so, but I suppose it's possible. Stephon Gilmore, who had a really good year for the Cowboys last season. Steven Nelson, who had a nice season for the Houston Texans. or Kool-Aid McKinstry, who might be available there at the end of the first round. I know he ran really well. He is not Terrion Arnold, but he is a good player out of Alabama. That's my quartet. One of those four, I think. So there you go. Enjoy that. So this obviously makes sense for the Tennessee Titans. They add to their busy offseason. Penik, how excited should Titans fans be?
They've added some names. Yeah, obviously some more names on the offensive side of the ball. We've talked about Ridley. There's Tony Pollard there too. Still really excited about my guy Tajay Spears. Just because Tony Pollard's there doesn't mean that Tajay Spears ain't gonna have some fun. They added some guys on the defense. Oh man, they added Kenneth Murray from the Chargers. Yuck. So they've added names, Chris. That's what they. Yeah, I'm not a Kenneth Murray guy out of Oklahoma. Bobby and I didn't like him coming out of the draft, and he kind of just he's been around in the NFL, and the Titans added him this offseason. So what the Titans need to do at this point, guys, is I think they just need to get good players on their roster. Obviously they have a quarterback issue and they're picking 7th, so they're really in no man's land with how many teams in front of them that want quarterbacks. Do they believe in Will Levis? Sure, new regime, new everything. They need good football players, and they need to start this rebuild with good football players, and that's what adding a player like L'Jarius Sneed does for you. Kind of simple as that.
It just depends on Will Levis and what the Callahan father-son duo can do with this. They're going to go offensive tackle in the first round. That's obviously needed. Their offensive line was pitiful last year. And then they have the best O-line coach in the NFL. I think they're trying to take advantage of seeing what they have in Will Levis, who was, up and down as a rookie. But you add Hopkins, and now they're an older team, right? Like Pollard is 27 next month, but year 6 for a running back. Hopkins 32, Ridley 29. But I love the addition of Sneed regardless. That gives them a nice trio of good players on defense with Jeffrey Simmons, Landry, and Sneed. I'm just interested to see how much more they can add to the offense through the draft. They're going to add tackle. I think that Treylon Burks has been a bust of a draft pick. I feel like they need a slot guy to keep that offense on schedule. They really don't have that right now. I know Kyle Phillips can do that a little bit. I feel like
they met with Roman Wilson. They had a top 30 visit with Roman Wilson. I kind of love that.
They have a high second-round pick, and I feel like there's 3 guys that they could look at if that's what they're looking. And I'd see where you would go, Rose. You could go Roman Wilson, who's got the outside-inside versatility. Lad McConkey, who I think is going to be a slot guy, even though people want to force him outside. He can't beat press, and he's not fast enough to make you pay if he does beat you. And then Xavier Worthy could be there, who is a little more raw, but you have the big arm in Will Levis. Do you become a team that's just looking to create explosives? Like where would you go if you were there, Rose?
Yeah, I like all of those names. I think Roman Wilson's so interesting. Because he's a little, right? He's a byproduct of, we always talk about, we don't know what J.J. McCarthy can do. Well, who the hell was trying to get him the ball up in Ann Arbor? It was J.J. McCarthy. So I think we've barely seen anything out of Roman Wilson. And I think his ability and just who he is as a kid is off the charts. I think
he's good.
I think that Callahan could have a ton of fun with him in that offense. Here's the thing. You can only be as excited as Will Levis will take you. That's it. It's just there were for some fun moments, and then there were some dreadful moments. But guys, this is a franchise that has been easily one of the 3 most boring franchises for 30 years now. Really, I mean, and you could say it pretty much since Warren Moon was in his heyday. Even when they were in the Super Bowl, they weren't an exciting offense. Eddie George was a fantastic player. Steve McNair was a co-MVP. But they were never what you would call jump off the charts exciting. They just haven't been. I don't know why they've been stuck in this rut forever. But when you're man, there's a Titans game on, you're like, oh God, do I have to do laundry? Can I schedule a dentist appointment? What can I do? Because they just weren't fun. We need to get them fun. I don't know if they can be any better than 4th, regardless of what happens in the draft this year, because I think the other 3 teams are ascending. I don't know about Jacksonville ascending, but at least they've got a stud quarterback and they've got some talent there. But Houston's there, and they're awesome. And Indianapolis, I think, could be really fun with Anthony Richardson there. I don't think fun when I think Titans.
No.
Well, you got to give Levis a shot, right? Because you can, even if you don't think he's going to be good, you have to look at that situation last year, and it was terrible for a quarterback. That was a horrible environment for a rookie QB, and already a QB like Will Levis who needed time. So, I know he had that first game was electric, and then tapered off. But you have to give him a chance, and I feel like that's what they are, trying to do on offense. They've basically already said we're drafting tackle at 7. You add Ridley to go with Hopkins, who Hopkins still has some juice left, even though he's not the same player. And it'll be interesting to see how they address, the rest of the offensive line outside of Skoronski, and then, that slot wide receiver. Do they give Burks another chance? There's always talks about him being a big slot. I don't really see it happening. But they have to give Will Levis a shot, and I feel like that's what the Titans are trying to do.
I don't think I can talk any more Titans, guys. I mean, I have just for my own mental health, I have to move on.
Dude, I think their run in 2019 was electric, man. Going and beating the Ravens, the unbeatable MVP Lamar Ravens, and then almost gave the Chiefs a little bit of a run for their money.
2019 was the big run the damn ball movement versus throw the damn ball, because you had the Titans go on their run, and then you had it was the 49ers and Chiefs eventually. So
right, who threw it like 15 times in 2 playoff games with Jimmy G. I'm sorry, I still was not. Ryan Tannehill's had a fine career. It's been fine. But, man, I could not watch him. I wasn't like, yes, you know what? He's going to go throw for throw with Patrick Mahomes. I was like, oh, God, really? This is what we have to do? Please. All right. Let's talk about a couple teams that we think are drafting quarterbacks, or are they? New Commanders coach Dan Quinn, he confirmed that teams are sniffing around. They're making calls at number 2, but said the organization would have to be blown away to move out of that spot. In the meantime, listen to what Patriots coach Gerard Mayo told NFL.com. Quote, we're not dead set at taking a quarterback at number 3, but we do feel good having a guy like Jacoby Brissett ready to go. So, Bobby, what are the odds that 1, 2, 3 draft order changes? And if New England stays at 3, the chance it does not draft a quarterback in that position?
I want to ask you, because this is my first time wanting the Giants to trade up, right? So I'm paying attention to these quotes more. They're being brought to me. Is this par for the course?
Yes.
Of leaving themselves out? Because I don't see any way that these 3 don't draft quarterbacks.
I don't see it. They are all so needy. So needy.
Like, should I have hope as a Giants fan I could trade up to pick 3?
I don't think so. I mean, you've seen what a freaking disaster New England was. I mean, it felt like for an entire month they were switching between Mac Jones and Bailey Zappi at halftime every game. Is that really insane. The way you want to live?
It was Bill's parting gift of fuck you for making me keep this kid.
It was great. It's a great exit. And Washington, when was the last time they started the same quarterback in consecutive week ones?
It's been so long. I actually went back and looked at this every year. It's every single year. I think
Schrader.
I think it was Kirk Cousins. Honestly,
it was Kirk Cousins.
I have a major question about Washington though, because I wasn't on the show when Dan Quinn was hired, and this situation fascinated me even when it was happening. Dan Quinn is not Adam Peters' choice for head coach, first choice for head coach, right? And we all know that, and we all understand that, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's Ben Johnson.
They were on the plane to go get him, and they got texted in the air like, "Hey, I'm good."
So here's my conspiracy theory. They're going to take a quarterback. I know that. I look myself in the mirror. Washington Commanders are going to take a quarterback. If anything, I do have more questions about the Patriots, because even though it's Bobby's brought up this line before, and I can't help but agree with him. It's a new regime, but is it really a new regime there in New England? But with Washington, like I could talk myself into Adam Peters. He could look at himself in the mirror and probably not be happy that Dan Quinn is his head coach and Cliff Kingsbury is his offensive coordinator right now. And
what are you getting at? Are you saying that he would make them fail by not taking a quarterback? Is that what
trading back? Trading back, because it's like the 49ers, like, We're going to ride without the quarterback for a bit. We're going to start our
the
rebuild.
49ers traded up for Trey Lance.
They traded up to go get him.
I understand that.
And they traded for Jimmy G.
But we're going to rely on our draft picks. That's the whole point. We're going to rely on our draft picks. We're going to rely on good drafting. This is how we're going to start the rebuild. We're going to trade back. We're going to be bad. So we're going to wind up back at a position that we're going to take a quarterback. Plus, we have the ammo if we need to move up that we can move up to. Listen, and then Dan Quinn is going to be a sacrificial lamb. He will be fired, and Adam Peters will get the offensive head coach that he wants.
You're talking about firing a guy who hasn't even had a mini camp.
Correct. Because I don't think Adam Peters does not want Dan Quinn to be his head coach. Does not at all.
So speak up.
Well, there's a lot of teams that go into the top head coaches go. They only can pick one team. That doesn't mean they're going to sabotage themselves.
I mean, Adam Peters, this might be it. This might be the only quarterback he gets to take in a top 5 ever. Like, he might only have one swing at it, and he's going to back out because he's not happy that he doesn't have an offensive-minded head coach.
Look at his only swing at being a GM.
Right. This is it.
That's why I started off that speech with saying the Commanders are going to pick a quarterback. But if they really wanted to get crazy, you can start the rebuild with a shit ton of draft picks, and then you're going to be bad enough where you're going to be picking in the top 5, top 3 again to get the quarterback that you want in the next year's draft.
Hey, it's Aaron Rodgers on the phone. He thinks you're fucking crazy.
And he's a pretty crazy dude.
There you go. I mean, come on, man. Yeah, Washington's definitely sticking. I don't know who they're taking. I don't know if they're on the Drake May or Jaden Daniels train, but they're taking a quarterback. Now, New England, once again, their biggest issue, and we've talked about it on this show, is it sounds like it's a group think. Like it's a group effort and everybody's getting graded on turning in this group project instead of having one loud. Now, they might have one loud voice behind closed doors. They might be. But ever since Gerard Mayo's introductory news conference where he's like, yeah, it's going to be a combination of. No. I want one person. But I'm not so sure I want it being Elliot Wolf that is the guy who's closing the deal. He's not exactly the Wolf of this street.
And the Patriots are also like, they'll end up taking a quarterback. But I actually think there's legitimate conversation about them. Like, they're getting the third guy, right? What if it's Jaden Daniels, right? Like, if I would be willing to take Jaden Daniels at 3, and I'd be excited about it. But if you put a gun to my head and asked me, will Jaden Daniels be a good quarterback in the NFL, yes or no? I would probably say no. And I would especially say no if he was in the Patriots situation. They are a bad roster. They are a very, very bad roster. Now, they got some decent names on defense, some guys coming off injury with Judon and Christian Gonzalez. But offensively, man, they are in a bad spot.
But, Bobby, that's the way they've been even when they were great, even when they were the best team in the league. Like, I had to go back through their drafts last night, and I couldn't stomach it even before, like, 20. I had to stop myself. I was like, when was the last great skill player that they drafted? And don't give me that Ramondre Stevenson is a great player. He's not. He's fine. He's a fine running back. He's a guy who really could be like a second dude on a team, on a good team. That's what he is to me. He's a role player. But Sonny Michel, like N'Keal Harry, who? I'm being honest here. Find me the last stud skill player the New England Patriots drafted.
Aaron Hernandez?
Ian Gronk?
Yeah.
I mean, that's
long time
incredible.
Ago.
I mean, Jacoby Myers is a good player, but no one views him as a stud.
He's not a stud.
No.
He's nowhere close. Every other team in the league has drafted somebody that has turned into a fantastic football player, whether it's at their team or somewhere else. I cannot find it with the New England Patriots. I can't.
No, their drafts have been really bad.
So my theory was horrible.
Well, with Washington it was, but with New England, pile on. I will say this about Gerard Mayo's quote.
But that's my argument with the Patriots, though, is like Marvin Harrison Jr. would be a stud day one, no matter who's at quarterback.
And also, by the way, I think that they would be way more watchable. I can tell you this from watching Jacoby Brissett start 11 games for my favorite team 2 years ago. Jacoby Brissett can win games. The problem is when you put him in a position to have to win games in the last 4 minutes, that's where he struggles. So, like, he's great when pitching with a lead, if you will. they don't have enough around him to consistently do that. But you're also not going to get horseshit quarterback play like we saw out of New England the last 2 years. I don't think you're going to get that with Jacoby Brissett. So I understand what Mayo was saying with having a grown up in the room and a guy who understands the temperament of the organization and the MO of the job. Nobody's excited about Jacoby Brissett. Okay.
Nobody's excited about like Patriots fans. Like this is the long haul. And again, I just feel like they half-assed. Like they should have restarted, went and hired a new GM, and then let him hire a head coach. And again, it feels so similar to, the Giants firing Tom Coughlin and then essentially just bumping up everybody else in the organization one because they were all part of Super Bowl champions, but you felt like you needed to make a change up at top.
Yeah. Feels very similar.
Does anybody raise your hand if anybody thinks the order will change from Chicago, Washington, New England?
No.
I don't think so.
No, it's 4. It's 4 and 5.
But I would say this. I would love it. I would love it because it would be a story for 5 to 10 years. Whether or not the team that traded out made the right move or the team that traded up, was it a disastrous move? Did they give up too much? That guy ended up not in. Like that, to me, I love seeing that stuff because you can measure it for a full decade.
Yeah. And the haul that the team that you would get, I feel like this is different. This is very, like these top 3 picks and maybe even the top 4. This draft, it's so different because of the quarterbacks that are here, where I feel like even if you look on the value chart, it's like, well, I feel like the top 3 pictures, pick 2 and 3 maybe specifically here, it's almost worth more because of who's on the line and the type of quarterbacks that are on the line this year. So it may not even, you look at the value chart and this pick adds up to this and this pick adds up to that. I feel like it's very different this year where you may have to give even a little bit more to get where you want to get if you're a team that's picking, after pick 4, basically.
Hey, Bobby, who were you? You started this question by asking a question. Can we move up to 3? Is this all blown smoke? That sort of. Who is it you want at 3?
Drake May, if he's there. Caleb Williams 1-1, and then Drake May number 2, and then I think there's a pretty wide margin between May and Jaden Daniels.
Do you really? Because a lot of people don't think that. Why do you think that?
One, Jaden Daniels has been in college for a long time.
What?
My biggest worry about seeing the field stuff is just a blindness to the middle of the field, similar to the way Justin Fields struggled. That shows up for Jaden Daniels. A lot of his 70-yard runs were plays where it's like, man, you could have just thrown a 20-yard dig that was wide open, and you didn't. He's skinny, and a lot of the production came off of slot fades to Malik Neighbors and Brian. Now, I would if you gave me the option to trade up to 3 and take Jaden Daniels, I'm doing it. But I have a lot more confidence in Drake May than I do Jaden Daniels.
Okay, I'm going to slide this one in on you guys because I just saw it this morning. So work with me. We're going to test your brain power. Mm-hmm. Mike Tomlin, hanging out with all the AFC coaches at the meetings, right? The late March meetings, said that Russell Wilson, it's his job, but when it's time to compete for Justin Fields, he will get his time to compete. Penik, does that make any sense to you whatsoever?
Basically predicting that the team will be in a spot where Russell Wilson won't safely have the job? Is that what that basically is saying, Chris?
It sounds like he doesn't want to totally shut the door on Justin Fields getting a shot at.
He wants Justin Fields to be ready, but he wants to also declare Russell Wilson to be a starter.
Does that make sense, though, what he just said? Or is it is it more confusing?
It makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. Russell Wilson is our starter, but Justin Fields should compete like he's battling for the starting job.
Yeah. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Maybe the way the exact quote of what he said was a little curious, but it in practice makes more sense than what we heard initially, Chris, where we were talking about, well, Russell Wilson is definitively the starter. I think we were both kind of saying, well, why not just make it an open competition?
Yeah. So Tomlin said, oh my gosh, Justin Fields oozes talent and potential. He's worn the responsibility of being a franchise quarterback, but still he gets the opportunity to come into a community-like situation, learn from a guy who's been doing it over a decade.
Yeah.
Man, there's a lot of meat left on that bone.
Mm.
Okay. A lot of meat left on that bone.
Love football people talking.
I know, right? Tomlin's great. You know what? I want to see Tomlin get out of Pittsburgh just because I would love to hear him on my TV screen every weekend. I think he'd be so different than anybody else out there. I'd love to hear him. I think he'd be really fun. Plenty of free agents are still out there, including your old friend from the Giants world, Odell Beckham Jr. All right, Penik, is he anything better than a third receiver on a team at this point?
I'm going to be quick because Bobby does a really good job of talking about why and how Odell Beckham Jr. is not beneficial to being on a football team. He had 2.5 receptions per game last year, 40 yards per game on a catch rate that's, barely north of 50%. Yeah, he added 16.1 yards per reception, but I mean, we're watching, especially when Mark Andrews goes down, and we're watching the Baltimore Ravens. Andrews goes down, and I am begging Odell Beckham Jr. to step up. Like, all right, here's your time, bro. Like, you want the spotlight, you want the shine, you want to carry your team, you want to win games, blah, 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 blah. Here's your time. Never happened. Never happened where that offense felt like they could rely on him. And also, Bobby, we were watching that playoff game. Remind me of that play. We were watching that playoff game. Lamar Jackson throws an interception, and it looks like a really bad Lamar play. Meanwhile, Odell Beckham Jr. is jogging and dogging it.
Yeah, so I remember it. Odell is out there jogging, right? And if he runs his route at full speed, there's a safety that he'll occupy. He won't get the ball, but he will occupy a safety. But he's jogging it, and the safety, it's like, okay, I don't have to worry about that, and goes and undercuts up a route and gets an interception on Lamar Jackson. Yeah. He hasn't had 1,000 yards since 2019. He only has 1,400 yards in the last 4 years, a low catch rate. Now he doesn't have the volume to go with it. Tell me the team that makes sense.
I don't have it.
There's none. I even tried to look at Buffalo's like, oh yeah, they signed Curtis Samuel. Dallas, they have Brandon Cooks. There's just no team that makes sense to bring him in. And is Odell going to get signed for like $3 million per year?
No.
He didn't last year.
No, and that was insane in the moment. And we all said, like, I don't know who thought that was a good deal in the moment. For some reason, Ravens fans still were like, oh, well, he brought leadership and shit. Like, I think they just were winning and everything. That means everything's good. Nothing can be bad. If I am a playoff contender, if you're asking me what moves can we make, that is last on the line is Odell Beckham Jr. Everyone's going to say the Chiefs, but why would the Chiefs want to bring that in?
I'm going to say something that's going to throw Bobby off. At this point, I'm more interested in to see if he's going to use his sperm to have a baby with Kim Kardashian.
What?
Yeah, I know.
Really? Say that?
That would throw you off. No, because that's been a story this week in pop culture. Is that Kim Kardashian apparently
I know
really
it
likes,
has been.
I didn't know that.
He really likes. She really likes Odell's genes, and they may have Well, she has her eggs frozen, so as if she gets Odell's consent, then they could have a baby.
This is worse than Taylor Swift talk.
Literally, it's nuts. I mean, it's true. It's true. Hey, Penik, don't worry. It's only the second dumbest thing you've said on this show this week.
Yep, here I'm going for a record. I'm going to go for number 3 soon.
Do we know if Kim Kardashian is willing to trade Odell's DNA back because Adam Peters does not like the quarterback that it's going to end up forming? And he doesn't really like the head coach that would coach Odell and Kim through whatever process they're going through because it wasn't his first.
Do you like Odell, Rose? Because he was on your team for a couple of years.
Do I like him? I don't mind him. I just think at this point he's way more of a YouTube sensation and a social media sensation than an actual get it done from 1 to 4 on Sunday guy anymore.
Yeah, it's over. It's over. At one point, this guy was like a top 2 wide receiver in the NFL, if not the best. Like his first 4 years were unreal. Like he was on a Hall of Fame pace. He won't be a Hall of Famer now, but he was on a Hall of Fame pace. So in a sense, it's sad, but I could go on and on about Odell. There's just always going to be to me, he's a master manipulator of people. And so there will always be a side of people that want him because he's very good at He's very good at playing the heartstrings of people or playing to, poor old me.
Well, on top of that, when he walks, this part is real, I believe. When he walks into a locker room, it's a little bit like a football god walking in there for the other players.
Remember, he did the owners meeting last year. The owners meeting last year. Walked in there.
Yeah, but I'm saying that with these players, because so many of them grew up on the amazing catch against the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football, that they look at him and they're like, they don't see the lack of production. All they see is, holy shit, that's Odell Beckham Jr.
Yeah, but what are you paying for that?
I don't know. I suppose there probably is some value in that, don't you think? I mean, we can't look at football players strictly as 16.1 yards per catch. You can't.
But you can when it comes time to pay. I don't think you can pay more than $3 million. Like, if he signs a 1 year, $3 million to go back to with the Ravens, okay, that makes sense. But you're just not going to get much on the football field out of him. Like, he's going to have some big plays here or there, but the speed's not there. He can still go up and make some tough catches, but he doesn't separate the same way, so he kind of has to live off of those tough catches too.
I'm gonna continue to say it because it makes no sense, and this, we already know that they're how much of a.
Hold on, you're not going to use the word sperm in this sentence.
No. Already of a shit storm and a wreck that they already are. I want the Jets.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I want them to go to the Jets.
Oh yes, I'm on board. Why not? Let's go.
Why not?
Could you
tell
imagine
me why not?
If he ended up in New York? If he ended up back in because with the 10th,
would you rather have Odell 1 year, $5 million, or the Mike Williams contract?
Both.
Oh,
I think I would. I think that was the one place that I could see it making sense because Rodgers will put the ball in there and he doesn't need a ton of separation to feel the need. But once Mike Williams is there, it doesn't make sense anymore.
Well, let's remember, by the way, that Odell wanted to go to Green Bay. There was talk about him going to Green Bay because he wanted to go play with Aaron Rodgers. Remember when he was available? Okay.
There's talk of New York last year too.
Interesting. All right, guys, we're going to start a new segment. I think we're going to try and do this every show before the draft. I think it'll work out timing-wise. We're going to call it True Lies. Okay? So I'm going to say a comment, and I'm going to ask you if it's true or if it's a lie. See how I did that?
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
I just want to make sure I'm not going too fast for you guys. Do we understand? Yes, we do. We're going to start in the AFC East. We'll go in order of finish. Why not? Buffalo. This will be the final year for Sean McDermott if the Bills don't at least make the AFC title game. Is that true or a lie, Bobby?
This is the toughest one out of all the ones that we're going to do because it might be time, but also Brandon Beane is very loyal to Sean McDermott, but McDermott has let go of 2 coordinators now, and Dorsey and Leslie Frazier. You bring back Joe Brady, you upgrade, you put Bobby Babich as the defensive coordinator. I'm going to say lie because I think they at least get to the divisional round, and if they lose, they're going to lose to a really good team, whether it's the Chiefs or the Ravens or someone. Like, they're not going to lose to a bad team, and Josh Allen's been really good in the playoffs. I'm going to say lie. I think Sean McDermott, they would have to miss the playoffs or lose embarrassingly in the wild card round to lose his job.
I really want to say true, but I'm also going to say lie because I think in the NFL, when there's so much instability, you look at teams that are just trying to find it, and even sometimes sticking with mediocrity because you don't want the instability, right? Where I wouldn't call what the Bills are doing mediocre for sure. I mean, they win 11, 12, 13 games every single year the last couple of years. So, I mean, is it getting to a Bo Pelini situation where you just get stuck? Bo Pelini, my Nebraska Cornhuskers, where you just get stuck in a certain rut. It may be getting there. McDermott's been there since 2017. That's much longer than That's a long time. It really in the NFL. So, but I think the Bills, and especially with Brandon Beane running things, He's going to go for stability. So I'm going to say this is a lie.
It is true.
Oh!
It is true. Now, I know that he's only missed the playoffs one time in his 7 years there in Buffalo. 4 straight years he has won the division. But it feels like, right? What's the easiest thing to change when you already have your franchise quarterback and you can't get over the hump? The easiest thing to change is not your left guard. It is your head coach. And so I do think that because he has gotten rid of, in consecutive years now, his defensive coordinator and his offensive coordinator, there's nobody else like, okay, who else can I guess that's on me now. I guess it's on me. And I get it. I understand the Brandon Beane thing and that relationship. At some point, the Pagoulers are going to be like, yo, can we crank it up a notch here? If they have a bad, like this was the year they were supposed to be significantly better than the Chiefs. Not just beat the Chiefs in their crib. They were supposed to be way better.
Their run of injuries really did suck, though, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Of course it did.
And that's the pass that I think they get this year.
Great. And look at who the Chiefs had catching the ball all year.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. At some point, it has to happen. Like,
you would wonder if, like, Brandon Beane sends out feelers to the Ben Johnson camp throughout the year, just like gauge interest in that, because he's turned down head coaching jobs 2 years in a row. You know, because you would have to go offensive coaches if you did move off of McDermott.
Okay. Move on to the Miami Dolphins. For most of the season, they really dominated the division. In fact, until the final Sunday night game of the year, it was there for the taking. True or lie, Penik? The Dolphins are actually the team to beat in the East.
No, that's a lie. Flat out lie. Last year was the year for me. If they were going to turn it on, it was the second year in the system. Tua, you put everybody together, you get the whole band together. And, hey, you're playing bad teams. You could score 50, 60 points. That's great. But when it gets down to it, I don't trust Tua. And even that defense really did disappoint me, too. And the moving off of Vic Fangio, I think that's a mistake. So I'm going to call that a lie.
Yeah, it's the Buffalo Bills. Like, I call it a lie, too. Like, we talk about this being the year, for the Bills, but like, and Justin said with the Dolphins, like that last year, they had all of the head start where the Bills are talking about missing the playoffs. The Dolphins are fighting for the 1 seed, and they still ended up losing the division. So it's a lie. I got the Bills.
Yeah, it's a lie. They had to blow up their defense. They had some cap issues. They let a lot of good veteran experience go. Now they've got a couple of young guys coming back from major injury on that side of the football. They kind of revamped their linebacker room. I do like bringing in Jordan Brooks. Some people don't love him. I think he's good. I think he's a good athlete. I think he's a good.
I thought that was an underrated signing.
Yeah, I think he's a good football player. Anthony Walker's a guy who's one of those coaches on the field, so I do think that they'll be better. I don't know what happened with Vic Fangio and all that stuff, but the Anthony Weaver addition could be interesting for his time now as a defensive coordinator. It just feels like so much has to go perfect for Tua. It just has to. That he's not, he's a good quarterback. I don't think he's great. I do think he's going to get another contract there, but it feels like there always has to be, if something's off by this much,
yeah,
that it's not perfect.
And the main thing in the NFL today is that you need to improvise and do some things off structure. If Tua, like the stats of Tua holding the ball 2.5 seconds is awesome. One of the best EPAs in the NFL, efficiency, all that stuff. After 2.5 seconds, oh my God, it's like the world falls apart around Tua. So, and also I'm a little hesitant on McDaniel as the play caller too, because there's been certain smart people that I've heard in certain times where I've watched Dolphins games, and sometimes the whole boy genius thing of sometimes you're too smart for your own good, where you watch some Dolphins games and for all the pre-snap motion that they do and motion at the snap, and that timing needs to be perfect, you need to get that play in on time too. And I'm not sold that McDaniel is doing the best of jobs for the Dolphins, especially when it matters most and when you're playing good teams and in some big moments. So there's that too.
We also love like his personality and his quirkiness and everything in front of a camera and a microphone. But yeah, it wears thin if you're just going to go one and done every year in the playoffs and be a 6 or 7 seed. Like at some point, you've got to show a little more.
Get him a better quarterback. I'm not blaming Mike McDaniels for making Tua have the most yards in the NFL and him falling short.
It's true.
Okay. On to the Jets. Robert Saleh said he's excited for his team to do everything it was supposed to accomplish last season. Now, let's assume, and it's a big assumption because he's a 40-year-old quarterback, that Aaron Rodgers bounces back from that Achilles okay. The Jets are indeed a playoff team. Is that true or a lie, Bobby Skinner?
If we're assuming that Rodgers is healthy, that's a truth. Let's just say the Bills, Ravens, Texans, Chiefs are the 4 division winners again. Probably won't play like that. Then you have the Jets would be 1 for the wildcard team, the Dolphins, the Bengals, Browns, Jags, and Chargers. So that's 6 teams going for 3 wildcard spots. 2 quarterbacks are going to get injured, and hey, Rodgers is healthy like we set up. Yeah, they've been able to win 7 games in back-to-back years with the league's worst quarterback play. Like, not me just exaggerating, the statistics. The worst dropback EPA in the NFL the last 2 years is the New York Jets. It's also, like, stifled the run game with Breece Hall, right? Like, Breece Hall has been a very good back, but with low success rate numbers because, one, teams don't respect them as a passing team at all, and their offensive line wasn't good. So they improved the offensive line. That defense is going to be really good. They've been essentially like a top 5 unit back-to-back years. Yeah, if Rodgers is back in his normal self, they are a playoff team.
Yes, they are. And I was critical of their offseason before they signed Tyron Smith and even Mike Williams. Now, it's like, here's the thing. Am I going to sit here and tell you I love the Jets offseason, that it's made them into this contender in the AFC? No. I mean, obviously, Aaron Rodgers being healthy is going to be the main thing that's going to decide them being a contender in the AFC. But they've done certain things this offseason. Tyron Smith is huge. I won't downplay that. But adding Mike Williams, they got John Simpson. They got Morgan Moses from Baltimore, which is a little underrated too. They got Javon Kinlaw. Those are like the main offseason moves that they've made so far. They've added and they've supplemented the team to the point where I almost feel like they need offensive linemen in the draft, but they could go BPA and they could just add good players to this team to an already pretty talented roster. Getting CJ Mosley to basically take a pay cut and restructure his deal is huge, where him and Quincy Williams are one of the best linebacker duos in the NFL. They have one of the best cornerback duos in the NFL. And they're still pretty decent at pass rush too. And you know that solid defense is going to generate pressure. So it's a matter of, can they keep Rodgers upright? Breece Hall, the second year off the ACL, you hear me talk about, the difference between 1 to 2 years coming off the ACL all the time. I think it's going to fail. I think it's just, there's too many big egos happening right now, but it's not going to fail because the Jets don't have a talented team. Like, I think on paper, this is a really, really good football team right now. There's a lot of other reasons why I think it's going to fail. It's not going to be because of that.
Well, so we're assuming health for the quarterback. I don't think you can do it for the rest of the team. I mean, Tyron Smith has missed a ton of games. Elijah Vera-Tucker, what's the one thing we always say about him? He's a great player when he's on the field. So, and they just traded for Morgan Moses, who played his entire year with a pectoral injury. So we're talking about them having major health issues elsewhere outside of quarterback. Now, I know that basically half of the teams in each conference make the playoffs, so it should be an easy truth. But I think it's a lie.
But they've won 7 games back-to-back years with the worst quarterback play in the NFL.
I know, and I can look at 2 other teams that had questionable
and their defense
quarterback.
is healthy.
I know. How was the Steelers quarterback play last year, Bobby?
Horrible, but it wasn't. Their defense wasn't as good as the Jets' defense, though.
But that's my point exactly. They won 3 more games than the Jets. So how did they do it? The Browns started 5 different quarterbacks, and they won
the
4.
worst quarterback play in the NFL. If you put Aaron Rodgers on the Steelers, they're a playoff guarantee.
But the Steelers made it anyway. So my point is that more than just Aaron Rodgers being back has to happen for this team, and I'm not so sure. I don't know if it's just because they have bad juju or whatever it is, The Jets can't get out of their own way. So Aaron Rodgers being okay at 40 years old, great. He didn't make it his last year in Green Bay, by the way. He had it right in front of him, and he couldn't make the playoffs.
And he didn't have the Jets'
different,
defense that year either, though.
This team is so different than those teams in Green Bay, though.
Okay.
But like, I want to agree with you, Chris. I want to agree with you. I think this is going to fail.
He's got Garrett Wilson. Now,
So
I do think there's going to be something that makes it fall apart too, right? And
that's what
we're
I'm saying.
assuming Rodgers' health. You can't assume that, in real life. But like, I think comparing them to the Steelers is, I don't like they have the worst. Like they now they won't have the worst quarterback play in the NFL. They won't have the best, but they're going to have, they're going to have a top 10 QB and I think a top 15 offense. Like, and having Aaron Rodgers is going to make the run game better too, right? Whether it's checking into the runs, checking out of the runs. Nobody in the NFL has better command of the line of scrimmage in the NFL right now better than Aaron Rodgers. I think they will be a team that wins 10 games and makes the playoffs if he stays healthy.
Last one, Patriots. True or a lie? Despite coming off their worst record in more than 30 years, New England's situation isn't as bad as it appears, Penik.
I feel like we've talked a lot about this as this episode has gone on. New England's situation isn't as bad as it appears, huh? I'm going to call that a lie. I'm going to call that a lie.
Think about it. It's not as easy.
No,
There's nothing good about that offense.
No, I'm going to call it a lie.
Warner.
Because, I mean, really, what is exciting is Alex Van Pelt. He's been, the offense coordinator in Cleveland the last couple of years. So if you get somebody with that Kevin Stefanski kind of mindset, and if you get somebody with that kind of offense that can come in here and change it, and I find myself, as I've gotten more into football today, guys, I can't help but how many times it's like, of course, you're going to pull up a depth chart and you're going to look at the talent on the roster too. But I can't help how many times if I know the head coach is not calling the plays, then I'm going to Google their offense coordinator too, and I'm going to remind myself who's the offense coordinator for this team, especially if it's a new staff, because I feel like offensive play caller, it's so important. Like if I had to prioritize positions, it's quarterback, left tackle, and then offensive play caller is the third most important position in the game of football. So that guy can change things for sure. What they do, they need to add good. They need to add similar with the Titans.
I'm not convinced Alex Van Pelt is like some genius either.
No, he's not. I don't think he has 20 years of experience in the NFL, and this is how many times has he actually
was really bad, even with like Deshaun Watson as a quarterback.
Right, I have 35 years of driving a car. I'm not going to win a NASCAR race anytime soon.
I could beat you in a car race.
Right.
Well, it depends which car we're talking about.
Right.
If I'm driving my wife's car, forget it. No.
I will beat you with my S10 that just blew an engine.
I think we laid out a good amount of evidence this episode on why they're, the New England situation, maybe it is as bad as it appears, the whole nepotism thing, and there's guys in the building that have kind of been there for a long time, and they kind of just bumped everybody up one spot after Bill.
Oh, they're in a horrible situation. Like, I feel bad for the quarterback that gets drafted to that team.
Oh, God. Yeah, I couldn't even write this one without chuckling, to be honest with you. I tried, guys.
Worst situation, Panthers or Patriots?
Panthers.
They just traded for Deontay Johnson. Yeah, I'd say Panthers too. They don't.
No. You know what? Patriots. I think the division makes it a worse situation. I think the Patriots have way, way, way further to go than the Panthers do in their division.
The Panthers don't have draft picks.
That's a problem.
And I don't see Bryce Young turning this thing around either.
Okay, now you convinced me. God dang it. All right, Bobby, before we get out of here, real quickly, give us a prospect to go do a little extra homework on this show as we creep closer to the draft.
The Texas Tech safety who does believe space is real. Dadrian Taylor Demerson, 5'10", 197 pounds. That doesn't jump off. You go watch him play, man. He's just this instinctive, rangy safety who plays from split, center field. He can do it all. Now he's got to, cool it sometimes. He follows the quarterback's eyes or backfield action, so he can be a little over aggressive. So I tweeted about him, And then within like 20 minutes, a scout texted me and was like, I love this guy. Just if you sit down and talk ball with him, he's really smart. He understands the game. He gets it. So that's always the worry with like these over aggressive safeties is like, are they just living off of being over aggressive in college? And when they get to the NFL, they have to play in a structure and not the same guy. Well, if the scout tells me this guy's super smart, he understands the game like crazy, then I'm in on him. So Dadrian Taylor Demerson, safety out of Texas Tech.
Okay, well, I mean, I can't wait till whomever drafts him and has to say his name butchers it, because that is not an easy
DTD.
name. Yeah, DTD. He's not DTR. He's DTD. He's explosive. That's TNT. Something else. All right, good stuff. Once again, Tuesday, Friday, unless there's breaking news, you can get us breaking it down. I'll try to do a better job with my True Lies questions since you all scoffed at me this week.
We didn't scoff. We just had strong opinions on each one.
I know.
You sometimes you scoffed at your own last question. You were laughing while you were typing it.
I did. I wish you could have seen me. I wish you could have. And also special shout out to Mikey and all our amazing graphics people for the new look. We love our new home. Thank you very much. Continue to just take in the content. We're going to be working hard this off season, so we'll keep grinding away, hopefully for your pleasure. Make sure you tune into the Talking Giants world. Those guys are busy. Penik, Skinner, always do an amazing job. Shout out to our producer, Mikey, as well. I am Chris Rose. We will see you Friday here on Football Today.